This video is going to help walk you through Mrs. Connor's CR helper. For number 1, Ms. Connor gives you an additional example. It says Shelley and Michael were building a tower. The part that Shelley built was 4 3/4 feet tall. The part that Michael built was 3 10/12 feet tall. What was the total height of the building? So what it's saying is if we take what Shelley built and we add on to that what Michael built, what's the total height of that building? And on the actual CR, they even give you the expression that the two mixed numbers need to be added together. Ms. Connor gives you some hints in order to add those two mixed numbers. She says after you find a common denominator. So the first issue is we have to actually find a common denominator. Right now our denominators are 4 and 12. Okay? So we have to find a common denominator. The common denominator can be 12ths. And the question is 3/4 is how many 12ths? So if we look here and we say, okay, we have 3/4. All right, how many 12ths is that? Well, if you take a look, 3/4 is the same as 9/12. And the quick mathematical process to get to that, you say 4 times what is 12? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. Whatever you multiply the denominator by, you multiply the numerator by the same value. So 3 times 3 is 9. So this becomes 4 9/12 plus 3 10/12. So we found our common denominator the way Mrs. Connor suggests. Now we'll just add our numerators. So 9 and 10 are your numerators. 9 plus 10 is 19. She says the denominator will stay the same. So 9/12 and 10/12, you put them together, you now have 19/12. Then she says add the whole numbers. Okay, I'll add the whole numbers. 4 and 3 is 7. She says, now look at the fraction. Look at the 19/12. If it's an improper fraction, change it to a mixed number. 19/12 is improper because 19 is more than 12. So it's more than one whole. Well, 12/12 would be one whole, and we still have 7/12 left over. So 19/12 is the same as 1 7/12. Then she says, go ahead and add your whole number. So 7 and 1 would be 8. So that's 8 7/12 feet. 7/12 is in simplest form, so that must be the total height of the tower. Let's go to number 2. And the additional example Mrs. Connor would like you to think about says, what is the opposite of -6? Okay, well, we have to understand what the word opposite means. The opposite of a number is the same distance from 0 on the number line as the original number. So we're looking for a number that's the same distance from 0 as -6. That's our original number, but on the other side of 0. So we need to figure out what number is the same distance from 0 on the number line as -6, but on the other side of 0. Let me give you an example. For instance, -4 and 4 are opposites, because -4 is 4 units to the left of 0, and +4 is 4 units to the right of 0. They're the same distance from 0. They're both 4 units from 0, just on opposite sides of 0. So let's do the same for -6. If we're to find the opposite of -6, let's look at a number line. Here's 0. You're given -6. So here we are at -6. You say, okay, -6 is actually 6 units left of 0. So you're looking for what number would be 6 units to the right of 0. You're like, oh, okay. +6 is 6 units to the right of 0. And then it asks, explain their relationship to 0. -6 and 6 are both 6 units from 0. -6 is 6 units to the left of 0, and positive 6 is 6 units to the right of 0. And you can even put a positive here with your 6 if you'd like. That shows the direction that it's to the right. Hopefully that helps with number 2. On number 3, Mrs. Connor would like you to think about your order of operations. So let's remember our order of operations. Some people call it PEMDAS. That means you need to work with in parentheses first. Then you'll handle any exponents. Once you've simplified parentheses, handle any exponents. Then you move on to multiplying or dividing, going left to right. And finally adding or subtracting, moving left to right. Mrs. Connor gives another hint. She says, in the problem on your CR, if you go ahead and simplify your answers A, B, C, and D using the order of operations, they want the answer that is not equal to the given expression in simplest form. So you'll take your given expression, simplify that using the order of operations, simplify A, B, C, and D, and find which is not equal to the original expression. So what we did was we came up with an expression for us to simplify using our order of operations. This would be an example of the given expression. So we have to use our order of operations. We must work within parentheses first. Within parentheses, it's 15 plus 21. The only reason we're going to add is because those numbers are in parentheses, and parentheses has to happen first. So you're going to do 15 plus 21. 5 and 1 is 6. 1 and 2 is 3. 15 plus 21 is 36. So now we have 1/4, and within parentheses, we have 36. So we've just handled our parentheses. There are no exponents, so we don't have to worry about exponents. Then it says multiply or divide left to right. Well, the first thing you have to be sure you understand is what is the operation between this 1/4 and the 36. The operation between those two numbers is multiplication. So we're going to take 1/4 times 36. When you have a number outside a set of parentheses and there's no operation shown, it is multiplication that will be happening. So we need to find 1/4 of 36. Well, if we take a look, we could always draw a tape diagram if we want. You know the entire value is 36, and you're looking for 1/4 of that. You're like, okay, I better break 36 into fourths. I'm looking for 1/4 of that. So I say, okay, I have 4 parts of 36. What would I do to figure out how much in each part? Oh, I just take 36 divided by 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Therefore, 1/4 of 36 is 9. You could also just say, but I know how to multiply fractions. 36 is the same as 36 over 1, and then I simply multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. 1 times 36 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. Absolutely. Then we're still at 36/4, and you say, oh, but I know a fraction bar means to divide. So I'm just going to do 36 divided by 4 is 9. And either way, the simplified expression would be 9 if this was the given expression, and then you'd have to simplify each of the answers and find what was not the same in simplest form as the given. I hope that's helpful for number 3. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4, Mrs. Connor also gives an additional example. It says, what is the length of one side of an equilateral triangle with a perimeter of 24? Well, the only way you have a shot at getting this problem correct is if you understand equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle is simply a triangle that has 3 equal sides. So the length of this side is the same as the length of this side, which is the same as the length of the bottom side. And then it says with a perimeter of 24. So they want to find the length of one side. Now that you know it's equilateral, 3 equal sides, they say that equilateral triangle has a perimeter of 24. Well, if you don't know what perimeter means, again, you don't have a shot at solving this problem. So we better make sure we understand perimeter. Perimeter is simply the distance around the outside of a figure. So if we went around and we walked around the outside of our figure, what would be the total distance we've walked? That's perimeter. And they want the length of one side of the equilateral triangle. Well, you could always guess and check. You could say, I don't know, maybe this side is 4. Well, if this side of an equilateral triangle is 4, this side would also be 4, and so would this side. And then the distance or perimeter around, let's see if it would end up being 24. 4 plus 4 plus 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus 4 more is 12. The perimeter around this equilateral triangle would be 12. Certainly not 24. So let's try another number. So 4 was, let's see, too small because once we added those 4s together, we only came up with 12. We need to get all the way to 24. Maybe if we try 6. If that side is 6, that side must be 6, and that side's 6. Okay, let's find the perimeter here by doing 6 plus 6 plus 6 to find the total distance around, or the perimeter of that equilateral triangle. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 more is 18. Again, 6 is too low. We need our total perimeter to be 24. So Miss Connor actually showed you it has to be 8. 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 24. The method I used was guessing and checking. These would be 2 wrong guesses and checks, and then you'd show a correct guess. 8 plus 8 plus 8. 8 plus 8 is 16, and 8 more is 24. You'd show a correct check and say, okay, each side is 8 units long. Because that's what they want, the length of just one side. So one side would be 8 units long. But Mrs. Connor actually tells you a very quick, easy way to handle this problem. She says if there are 3 equal sides on a triangle, then you'll just take the total amount of all 3 sides, the perimeter of 24, and divide it into 3 equal parts because there's 3 equal sides, and 24 divided by 3 would be 8 units, would be the length of each side. Let's go to number 5. On number 5, it's a fairly complex problem. So Mrs. Connor has you break it down, and I provide an extra example here to kind of break it down for you. So it says a water pipe has a flow rate of 6 gallons per minute. How many quart bottles can you fill in 3/4 of an hour? Oh goodness. Well, first of all, we need to know that there's 4 quarts in a gallon and 60 minutes in an hour, because we're given 6 gallons per minute. But we're asked about how many quarts in 3/4 of an hour. So the first thing we have to do is convert 6 gallons into quarts. And the way that Mrs. Connor suggests you do that is your upside down caret. 4 quarts is 1 gallon. That's the fact that you need to know. How many quarts would there be for 6 gallons? So with your upside down caret, it's like, oh, you know something about gallons to gallons. How do you get from 1 gallon to 6 gallons? Oh, you multiply by 6. So then she'd say for your quarts, how do you get from 4 quarts to however many quarts here? You must also multiply by 6. 4 times 6 is 24. So instead of 6 gallons per minute, you actually, the flow rate for that water pipe is 24 quarts per minute. But we don't care about just 1 minute. We care about 3/4 of an hour. And again, Miss Connor suggests, well, if you know there's 60 minutes in an hour, simply use the upside down caret to figure out on your actual CR it's half hour, but we're using 3/4 of an hour here. So she says, okay, 60 minutes is 1 hour. How many minutes in 3/4 of an hour? Again, you say, oh gosh, 1 hour. What do I do with 1 to get to 3/4? Oh, 1 times 3/4 will get me to 3/4. So guess what I have to do with 60 if I'm using my upside down caret? 60 times 3/4 gets me where, right? I can do 60 times 3/4. 60 is 60 over 1. I can multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom if I choose. Or I could use a tape diagram if